Well, basically, while the slides are coming up, the case is to talk about sustainable development and where we are right now in Nigeria, what the government is doing, what young people are doing, what private institutions are doing, basically. But it's not just to put it out there in terms of facts. The facts are really poor. But to tell you that sustainable development is essentially a journey, we'll keep improving, we'll keep getting there, basically. So one new innovation comes up, something else is going to come up to top it, basically. So I'm going to start with this quote, and it's very exciting because it feels like I said it. What pleases me the most is that sustainable development is now on everybody's agenda. Like you turn on NTA and they can't say anything without putting sustainability at the end. Sustainable peace, sustainable police, sustainable food. I'm like, where weren't they doing this in 2010, in 2011, where I was just starting out, talking sustainability and people thought I was crazy. It's now on everybody's agenda. It's now a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. Trump pulls out from the Paris Agreement and it causes an uproar. Everybody's angry. Climate change is now something that people are interested in. So if you're not in the game, then you're missing out. If you're not connected in one way or the other, you're losing, because what are you doing if you're not linked to sustainable development in one way or the other? This is the new cool. This is the new gold, basically. And a brief evolution of sustainable development. Interestingly, it's been around for a while. Early 20th century, conservationists and preservationists were talking basically about nature and the way humans are using it. And the conservationists thought we should regulate the way we use nature. We need to manage it, basically. But preservationists said, no, humans should not use nature. They should just leave it the way it is. Mother Earth needs to survive, and if we continue to pressurize it, it's going to cause trouble. But then they thought, let's even get to an agreement. And the agreement they got into is that we would be able to use nature in the way that it is equitable, in the way that it is sustainable, basically. And that also led to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And in 1972, world nations decided to come up together and form the UNEP. We know the UNEP, right? United Nations Environmental Protection Agency and all. And then in 1983, the Bretman Commission and World Commission on Environment and Development came up. And the funny thing about this was that when people started talking about nature and its use, they said, we can make money from using nature. We can use the nature we are getting, we can use the money we're getting from nature to actually advance development issues, basically. So the shift went from just managing or protecting the environment to how can we make money out of nature? How can we make money, essentially the green economy? And so the Brundtland report came up, and it was about the common future, 500 pages, and a proper agenda on how we can actually sustainably use our natural resources, how we can reduce the dependence of oil. And at that time, the people who were thinking about this were very futuristic, right? People who had the big money weren't interested. Oil was still the big thing here. Industrialization and all of that was the order of the day. So a lot of people weren't interested in this. And then up until 1992, where we had the Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro, and all of that, they decided that maybe we need a proper development agenda that would be able to manage both nature, manage people, and make us money at the same time. So if you understand what sustainable development means, the idea of it is that people are happy, the environment prospers, and we make money at the same time. So it's the concept of people, planet, and profits. And the MDGs were created. We know the MDGs, right? Millennium Development Goals. If you know the SDGs, you should know the MDGs. Set of 8 goals, quite aspirational, but they wanted to end poverty, help vulnerable people. And they kept thinking, how can governments lead this? You know, and you think of the MDGs in Nigeria, the reason why you don't know them is because they left it for just our Nigerian government. It was So the MDGs were government-owned. The targets were unmet, definitely. And they were very unbalanced. Like, you weren't hearing things about private sector, you weren't hearing things about people, you're only hearing about government projects, development, money, and all of that. So that's why the MDGs didn't work. And so the political definition of sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of people, the needs of the present generation, without compromising the ability for future generations to meet their own needs. And it came up all on in 1987, basically. How can we right now sufficiently meet our needs without compromising the ability for the future, our children, our grandchildren, to meet their needs? Plastic pollution has gone to ridiculous amounts that in 2050, there are predictions that we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish. How does that even sound to us? It means that we were just dumping, right? We're just putting it to nature. Nobody was considering. Nobody was thinking, this thing is wrong, this thing doesn't feel right. Plastic doesn't decompose in it takes 700 years before it decomposes, if at all. So you just kept throwing it to the ocean. So it means that when you buy fish, there's a probability that your fish has eaten plankton. Now, plankton feeds on things that look like plastic. The fish feeds on plankton, right? Plankton looks like plastic, it's very flat and all. There's a high possibility that your fish has microplastic. It's scary. I like seafood, so it's annoying. So I tell my team, let's go somewhere, let's go and tell people. Let's go and tell them that there is a state of emergency right now, basically. And basically, these are the things that we want to talk about in Susty Vibes, the issues that matter, sustainable development and ownership, basically. And so there are five P's of sustainable development that are very important. I have a sixth one that I always add, and we call that one planning, basically. So sustainable development is about the people, right? They should be your focal points. Like, if you're thinking of getting into the agenda, the people should always be what you're thinking about. How can we help people get better? How can their lives be improved? There's so much problem, whether it's in the health sector, whether it's in the educational sector. People are suffering, people are dying every day. How can we make life better? How can we create a cushion effect or safety nets that will help people in slums get access to education, be happy with their fishing? Earlier this week, we went to a stakeholder discussion with fishermen in Makoko, and we saw the anger in them. They said they were happy with their fishing. They were happy just fishing, but now there's dredging work going on, there's oil spill going on, and they can't fish in peace. They are getting fish in lower units, and they're not happy. They did not ask for too much, you know. Safety nets, just make them happy at where they are. The people are the central issue. So why are we putting the focus away from people to profits? And then the planet. What do you want to do without the planet? What do you want to do without nature, life supporting system? The trees, the forests, they trap our carbon, fresh water. They literally help us survive. The way photosynthesis works, we're getting our carbon, we're getting our oxygen from this life-supporting system. So why do we begin to destroy them in the name of greed? And so sustainable development is key on helping people get better lives, but ensuring that the planet is protected at every single time. Ensuring that your development is going to allow, in 20 years, 30 years time, it's going to allow people to actually survive. I don't know if you've heard that because Lagos is a coastal city at threat of sea level rise, there might not be a Lagos in 70 to 100 years. And people are hearing that fact, but not a lot of people are interested because they probably won't be here in 70 or 100 years' time. So that's the problem. How do we meet our own needs? How can we be happy right now, but the future generation are happy at the same time? And then prosperity. Of course, we need prosperity. We need money to be happy. We need money for things to work. You need money to have an education, to live your life, to have an accommodation. So prosperity is very key. But it has to be done the right way. It has to be done ethically. It has to be done managing natural resources and all of that. And of course, there's partnership. What do you want to do without partnership, really? How do you want to work with the private institutions? How do you want to work with governments if you're not happy and agreeing on the same thing? How can we have the Ogoni cleanup if we don't partner with the people, partner with private institutions, partner with government and other international organizations to finally clean up the mess that has happened in Ogoni? And then there's peace. One major issue to sustainable development in Nigeria is that we have humanitarian crises that are causing too many ripple effects. So there are displaced people, there are hungry people, there are poor people, but there are also angry people. Young people in the Niger Delta, young people in Boko Haram affected area are really angry. So anything they snap and war starts basically. So how can you have sustainable development when there's no peace? And then for me, I always add planning, because that has been our biggest problem in Nigeria. We say we want to do something, and then there's no forecast of planning. We don't know where we're going to be in 10 years' time. We don't know where we're going to be in 20 years' time. And then there's nothing to track and evaluate. So planning is very key for me for sustainable development. It means that you should be able to track your success, know your failures, and know when to move to an alternate plan if it's not working. And so in 2015, I was very excited to be part of the process with the SDGs. There were a lot of stakeholder consultations. They asked young people what they think, which goals are very important, what should we do right this time, because we failed with the MDGs. And they came up with 17 sustainable development goals, highly ambitious, highly aspirational. They have 169 targets. When you look at them, you're like, where are we going to start from? Where are we going to do all of this from? But the beautiful thing about the SDGs for me is that they're all interconnected. How do you want to end poverty if people don't go to school? If people don't have access to clean water? How do you want to have renewable energy and access to renewable energy if your women are not empowered? Goal 5. How do you want to even come out of income poverty if you do not have decent jobs? How can we protect the planet when the blue economy, the oceans are being threatened from plastic? How can we diversify? How can we have innovations and infrastructure if we are so tight dependent on the oil? And basically the SDGs gave us the blueprint, the to-do list for the world, for the government, for people, for young people. It gave us a new light of hope, and they're so colorful and they're so exciting to look at, because they are the next things for us to look at. They are the next action or the next to-do list basically for us. And then the SDGs are community-led, meaning that it is not the Nigerian government thing. It is our thing. Like, young people are meant to take the SDGs as their own and look for the ones that they are really, really passionate about and attach themselves with networks, volunteer organizations, policies that are really pushing these goals, and do something. You have to carry it on your head, because this is our future right here. Do you understand what I mean? This is it, basically. The SDGs are for us. And when I look at them, when I look at our recently published voluntary report and review on the SDGs, I see the government saying we still have a lot to do. We don't know where to start from. We don't even have money. We don't have innovation. We don't have data. And I see it as our opportunity. So a climate change bill just passed the second reading. Young people don't even know. There's a gas flaring bill that has just been passed. Young people don't even know that in our internationally determined contribution on climate action, we've said we're going to do all of this, and Nigeria is actually taking steps to do it. But if we're not involved, how are we going to know? If the SDGs are for us, then if you're not getting in line with it, people are only interested in, okay, what project is funding at this point? But no, this is it basically. Taking ownership of the goals and looking for how you can align yourself with them. And so I tried to search for a couple of data on Nigeria and sustainable development. The truth is that the data is bad, the data is sad. In poverty, 62.6% of Nigerians are living under the old dollar, like when dollar was what it was, 300 and something. They're living with a dollar a day basically. and 27.9% are multidimensionally poor. And this was from our report. This is what we actually told the UN some weeks ago, that this is where we are. Basically, help us. Basically, this is what they put there. And then there's an increased unemployment rate. People are getting out. They're getting out of their jobs. People in their jobs are not even getting paid. So it's not like being employed is a gateway out of income poverty. You know what I mean? So people are not poor. People are out of jobs. People in their jobs are just hanging there, basically. And then education, the one that blows my mind, basically. 10.5 million out of 57 million children all over the world. 10.5 million of them are out of school in Nigeria. And a recent BBC report said if you divide them 50%, over 50% now are in Nigeria. And I start to think, what's happening? Like, why aren't we putting all our money to education? Why are we still building lots of mosques and bidding for prayers? Why are we doing religion? Why are we taking religion out of the things that really matter? Do we really have a plan for sustainable development in Nigeria? We have an illiteracy rate of 61%. And I dare say that because of my interaction with young people, even the graduates are nothing to write home about. Like, I'm looking like, okay, what school exactly did you graduate from? But the bad part is that 7% of the national budget, the single seven, is for education. You get to wonder, like, what's happening? What are you doing, basically? And then in health, we have 4.15% of the budget for health. That's what it is. And this is actually an improvement from 3.81 in 2015's budget. And then we have a life expectancy rate of 55 years. So if you're 60, 70, people are clapping for you. You've tried. In this Nigeria that is really hard, at 55 it's okay to pack up because the country is hard. Basically, you get what I mean? And so, to something that really I'm passionate about, fighting climate change, helping women, people tend to focus on here and right now. They're focused on what is in my bank account now. What do I have now? What can I put on social media? What can I show people that I'm about right now? But they don't understand that when issues of global warming comes up, when the impact of climate change hits us as it's supposed to be. And the truth about climate change is that no one really knows the science of it. Like, we only predict and say, okay, maybe this is what will happen. When it really hits us in Nigeria, in Africa, in vulnerable countries, most people, okay, let me read the quote. The problem is that once global warming is something that most people can feel in the course of their daily lives, it will be too late to prevent much larger, potentially catastrophic changes. And what this essentially means is that if we don't start to pack all the plastic in the ocean now and take out plastic pollution, if we don't look at our urban drainages, look at urban resilience in Lagos, if there isn't money pumped into fighting drought, desertification in Nigeria and in northern Nigeria, if we don't try to get peace now, when the impacts of climate change hit us, that you want to wake up and go to work, there's flood everywhere, there's sea level rise. When it starts, we will have nowhere to run. And part of what we do at Susty Vibes is to push these realities to people. We do it with different ways. We have Nowhere to Run, the movie screening. When you see Nowhere to Run, when you watch the movie and you see how producers have been able to relate climate change to our issues and interview the people who are focusing on it every other day, who are living these issues, you get scared. Like, if you've seen Nowhere to Run, you're actually afraid because you're like, this is actually the future that people are getting into. And why are we not angry about it? Why aren't we doing anything about it? Why aren't we really being active about fighting climate change and getting sustainable development as something that is our future, basically? It's not about making money. The green economy would prosper. Everybody will win. But the threat here is that we're not doing anything and we have nowhere to run. I mean, the guys in the West are exploring Mars, but are you going to go to Mars if they're running away to Mars? You don't have money. You're not going to pay for anything. I won't even be able to go. So that's the problem. Why weren't we getting angry and doing something about these things that are in our faces? Are we waiting until 15, 30 years' time when we can't even do anything? When our children will be the ones suffering all of this? Is that the plan we want? People, we need to like wake up, wake up. I tell my people every time, when you bring up idea, you have to get running with it. Do something one way or the other. Oh, some more data. Food security in Nigeria. 25.5% of the entire Nigerians are malnourished. And I dare say so sometimes, because you want a balanced diet sometimes, but you check your pocket and you just eat whatever you have, right? Am I the only person that can relate? Yeah, so you just eat what you have. So 25.5% of Nigerians are malnourished. And food insecurity is at a very high rate, 26.4%. It means that there are talks on GMOs coming. They're thinking of how can we help Nigeria, like we're getting hungry. Just so many people are hungry, so food security is a big problem. And then malnutrition in children under 5 is on the rise, 15%. And then the environment, which I'm really passionate about. Nigerians produce 8,000 tons of waste every other year. We are 1 in 10 most vulnerable countries on climate change. But the interesting thing is, according to this survey, is that 65% of Nigerians say they are really interested in climate change, only when they see that it's affecting their economic gain one way or the other. And then 43% of our land is at risk of desertification. Well then, here comes young people and the future, basically. Here comes the work we do at Susty Vibes. Here comes the work Recycle Points, We Cyclers, Climate Wednesday, Pearl Recycling. So many people who have decided to just get up and do something. Here comes our opportunity, young people. And this picture was from a party we did where we actually did dance for SDGs, because we know that you won't come for a workshop or a master class. So we have a party and we get people to dance to tell you about sustainability. If it gets to that, if that's the only way we can do it, we'll do it by any means possible. But you have to open your head and get this thing, basically. And so we've had key actions. There's the Office of the Special Advisor to the SDGs. There's the Not Too Young to Run bill that has just been passed, giving us opportunities to actually get into power at young ages. There's the Interministerial Committee on SDGs. And there's the Economic Recovery Plan, which has the SDGs at the core of its planning. You know, we have really good intellectuals in Nigeria who came up to put up a report on how we can actually diversify the economy, put the SDGs at the core front of making money. And there's Ogoni cleanup that's planned, climate change bill, gas flaring. There's been a reviewed environmental policy. There's a great green wall to fight desertification in the north. And for agriculture, there's the Green Alternative Agriculture Promotion Policy, the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme. And for health, the plan is to have 1 private health center per every ward in Nigeria. And interestingly, the Ministry of Health is looking at telemedicine. But you know, young people have been doing that for a while now. There's Baby Migo, there's MobiDoc, who are actually pushing medical health through technology, basically. But Nigeria is just waking up to the possibility. But we have big challenges. We're very dependent on oil and gas. We have poor infrastructure, very weak institutions, and there's population rise. The statistics say we'll have 190 billion by the end of 2017, and that we're going to be the 7th populous nation in the whole world. And then there's recession, there's humanitarian crisis, and there's no data, there's no way to evaluate, so we don't even know where to start from, basically. So these are the major challenges of sustainable development. But you know, Susty Vibes is working with young people for sustainable development in Nigeria, and we're making a case for business sustainability. That was why we wrote the e-book. We're making a case for partnerships. We can't do anything without consulting someone else, working with someone else. That's why I know a lot of the speakers who are involved in green economy, because I've reached out to them, I've networked with them one way or the other. We believe that partnerships are the only way we can push sustainable development. And we're redefining advocacy. We're using movie screenings, we're doing tours in streets where we're out in our numbers, taking selfies, telling people that you can become a cool kid by actually talking about plastic pollution. And that is what we are doing basically. And we're creating the platform and the network. We're also big on advocacy, volunteering, looking at policy and politics, asking young people in our field, if you're interested in sustainability, start looking at getting a place on the seat. Start looking at policies. The climate change bill, we're currently reviewing it now, and we'll send our report to the Ministry of Environment on what we feel as young people, basically. Who said our voice won't be heard? We're doing something, so they have to respect us one way or the other. And then social enterprise is very key, very key. It's not going to be about how you're making money or what you're doing anymore. It's going to be about value now. How is your business solving problems? And I'm not going to overflag on what Uncle Femi said. He basically hit the nail on the head. How is your business solving problems? Because people are paying for solutions. When you see packaged gari with granite and milk, it's a new solution. So people are happy to buy it. They're making money at the same time. When you see a new technology, which we're even working on, that a generator that will run on water alone, we're asking people, are you going to pay XYZ amount for a generator that runs on water? And people are saying yes, because they know their overhead costs with fossil fuel. And then we're also working on research and communication, using social media for good, not just talking about what's trending or what music is happening, using social media to push out information that is very critical, whether with cartoons, graphic designs. What we are supposed to do is to push sustainable development to the faces of young people and tell them that you can actually do something. No matter how small, you're going to influence one person or the other. And then we make, we don't want to have just one stars, one Susty Vibes, one organization just doing something. We want to have that community of young people really driven about sustainable development and advancing it, so that when government makes a policy that is anti-environment or not eco-friendly, we can rise to opposition and tell them that we don't want this. Our future is at stake here. And basically, that's the end of my talk. Thank you so much.
I like that. She said, basically, that's the end of my talk. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Please put your hands together for Jennifer. She's done an amazing job. Susty Vibes. You can be a cool kid by talking about the environment. It's not a boring subject to talk about. Thank you so very much. Remember, today it's all about a green economy. An economy that does not degrade our environment. You know, she said two very important things that I want you to be very particular about and I want you to note. And incidentally, I was reading a report yesterday, and this report said by 2050, a large percentage of Lagos will be underwater. And it scared me, because I actually see it. I don't know about you. You know, when everyone was making jokes and making Instagram memes about the flooding in Lekki, it's not funny. It's not funny. That's the future that we're looking at if we don't start to do something now. It's not enough to just talk about it. We have to do something. Next, I think she talked about, you know, the plastic bags and how we need to do something about it. When the flood in Lekki was happening, I was in Rwanda, and one thing that was, you know, that struck me, it is said to be the cleanest city in Africa. And that's a country that plastic bags have been banned for a reason. It's because they are not biodegradable and they're harming our environment, and we need to do something about it. So put your hands together once again for Jennifer and Susty Vibes for everything they're doing for the environment. All right, as a reminder, we're on social media. We're streaming live on YouTube. So you can tweet, you can Instagram, take selfies with each other, and use the hashtag TESS2017. All right? And yes, we also have Q&As, but because of time, we're going to take questions together. So if you have any question for any of the speakers, write them down. And after the next speaker, there will be a short Q&A session, and we'll take all your questions. So write your questions down now and find an usher and give it to the usher, okay? All right, our next speaker is, I'm not going to do an introduction because there's a bio recorded. His name is Mazi Okono. Please put your hands together while his bio plays on the screen.
Mazi Okono, CEO, Recycle Points, a social benefit venture that encourages people to recycle waste for valuable incentives. He has over 10 years experience in procurement and logistics management in the oil and gas industry. He earned an executive certificate in technology, operations and value chain management from the MIT Sloan School of Management, and has attended numerous MBA courses in supply chain and project management. Please make welcome Mazi Okono.
Please make welcome Mr. Mazi Okono.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Very anticipated event, and I'm so happy that we have a huge turnout. I have to heartily congratulate Ayo for putting up this. This is my first time. The buzz that went into this was quite, remarkable, and it's a good thing to actually come down here and talk to all of you today. I normally would start my presentation with a video, and I guess I would urge you all to pay attention to this. It's about a 1-minute video, and so that you can take in the story I'm about to tell you today. Can we have the video now? Okay, I think we're having a little bit of technicalities there. All right, I think I'll go ahead. Please, let's make sure the video is available. But then I can go ahead with the slides. quite interesting. I don't need to explain anything after that movie, right? So you can imagine what we have been putting out there. Many of us take bottles of water and then, like many of the speakers, we actually say we are poor, Abi, and then we throw these things away. And some people actually pick it up and they get to transform it into the jerseys we wear, and we pay a huge amount of money for it. 7 plastic bottles making one. Statistic also is about 80,000 tons of waste that we generate on a daily basis. In fact, analysis puts it that even in Lagos, we have about 13,000 metric tons of waste. And 80,000 metric tons of waste will require about 2,040 tons compactor trucks to move out. And in value, that has been put to about 4 billion naira every day. And yet, we are all saying that we are poor. In fact, we are still being rated as developing country. And every day we find ourselves in that situation where we have to be asking international communities for aid and all. But when they look at us and they look at the resources that we have, most of the time they think certainly something is wrong with us. You know, the global waste management market is worth $1 trillion. And by 2020, they said the forecast will move up to about $2 trillion. You know, China is actually the destination for every waste. What you saw in that video was a Hong Kong factory, you understand? And they are the ones transforming this into the raw material that most of the companies are using. So, and clearly what is happening? Why are we not doing this? You understand? There is a handful of companies, you know, that are doing this. And the challenge is that we have not been able to transform. You know, when I looked at the green economy from the illustration, you can see very wonderful depiction. It is what? Wrap. Now, there is what we call a linear economy. In a linear economy, what happens? We actually extract raw materials, we manufacture with them, we now distribute them, and then we use them, and what do we do next? We dispose them. And that's what happens, and it ends there. You find out, most of us, if you pass Olusosun, how many of you know Olusosun here? Because I know a lot of people actually came in from. So you find a lot of waste in that place, because that's what we are operating, a linear economy. Whereas in a circular economy, which is the green economy, you have that we will be able to transform the resources, we will manufacture, we will consume and use. Then again, we will do what we call recycling. We will actually make sure that those things that we are using, do we need to just dispose them or do we have to transform them? Because I bet a lot of us didn't know that actually those shirts that we are wearing were actually made from plastic bottles. Whenever you bring a particular fabric and you see it is written 100% polyester, it was basically done with a plastic bottle or a plastic material or PET material. And that's the reason why we are here today, to be able to enlighten most of us that there is a lot of money that we've been throwing around. Waste actually is not waste. It's actually a resource. Before we actually can call something waste, it means we have not explored any opportunity that actually is inherent in that stuff. You know, at the moment, some countries, I can surprise you that some countries are practicing what we call zero waste. And when they say zero waste, you actually ask yourself how possible it is. So those items that you say that you cannot actually use, especially in the Scandinavian countries like Sweden and Norway, they take them all and they burn it. And when they burn it, they actually use them to generate energy that they can use for their heating, which is to say that they are in more temperate regions. So they have to find a way for them to be able to manage the waste that they generate. So it's actually a balance between the resources you have and how you are able to explore it through the entire life cycle of that material. Jennifer was here some minutes ago and she talked about and also Femi actually did also a good job, so I may not be even saying a lot of things that they have said, but you find out in this particular slide that Nigeria currently, I think this is even dating back as 2013, that we are the 7th most populous nation in the world. And they said we will actually be getting close to China by 2050. In fact, we will be the third most populous in the world, beating United States by 2050. And clearly, what is actually happening? Why are we experiencing hardship? Why are we saying things are hard? The idea is very simple. There are a lot of people competing for the resources that we have. So many of us are competing for the resources that we have. So we have to be able to do a little bit of research or resource management to be able to balance it out. A typical illustration, a company puts out an advert, they just want one person. Am I correct? How many people apply? But at our company at a particular time, we wanted one person, 12,000 people applied. How can you sort that out? 12,000. So there is an issue with regards to how we need to be able to manage our resources. Out here, that's a data I've put up here, and you look at it that what is Nigeria actually importing and what are we exporting? So what we are importing and what we are exporting should tell us. Now you find the statistics shows that a lot of the things that we import, 97% of it are fuels, mineral products, you understand? You know, the crude oil and all that. And then the others, we are practically flat, as in below 1. So take it, for instance, that like Femi spoke here. In fact, they've given them a mandate in Europe to phase out cars that are using diesel. So by the time that happens, in fact, we're already suffering. We went practically into technical recession because of how flat the oil price went. So if we can no more be making a lot of money from fuel and the crude that we sell, what will happen to us? So the idea is that we needed to look inwards. We are consuming a lot of items. And the fact that we are consuming and not producing actually makes it a challenging task for us to continue to survive. I'm so scared that by that 2050, we might practically be eating ourselves if we don't get involved in strategic policies and issues that will help each and every one of us turn from that job seeker to that job creator, because that's very, very important for us to continue to survive. Now, the story about recycle points, a lot of people ask me this story. I've been working in the oil and gas industry for about 15 years. And it was a drastic shift to what I'm actually doing. So I'll actually tell you the story. It's an interesting one. Okay, but then it is one that actually was born out of a challenge I had. So most of the time when we encounter challenges, most of us actually go in there and we say, this guy has made me angry. Actually, I was in UK at a particular time, and my family and I, we were spending a little bit of time there, and normally we are like Nigerians. So what do Nigerians do? When we get our waste, what do? We pack it up, Abi, and we just go and dispose it, right? So we did the same thing. In fact, when we went to that bin, there were about 3 or 4 of them. So one is red, one is blue, one is black. You don't even know which one you have to throw your bin. So we just tied the thing there and flung it into one of those bins. And the next thing we had was that they came into our house and they sipped in a bill. And we looked at it. It was a bill that we didn't dispose our waste properly. And it was actually in pounds. By the time you cough out the pounds, you actually start thinking, what did you do wrong? And we started looking at it as in, how can these people charge us for just disposing our waste? My wife and I, we took that very embarrassing experience back to the country. And in fact, after that day, we started now asking people, which one is which? How do you, which the yellow container, what goes in there? And I should have known this thing because it's not supposed to be, but we see it. It's preached, but we don't actually pay any attention to it. So, but coming back to the country, we started doing a little bit of a research, and which is one of the things that she said, that most times we encounter challenges and we just brush them off. The success story that you hear most of the time that we make is actually born out of a lot of hard work that we put into asking the right questions. So we started asking questions about these plastics and all that we were generating. And we found out that there was value. They wouldn't have been giving us fine if they didn't know that there was value. And that was one of the things that led to the research of what we started doing today. About 3 of us came together, myself, Choma and Taiwo, and we now started coming up with innovative ideas how we can get everybody to start recycling. So we started in my small kitchen, and then we started putting it out and told neighbors, please give us your plastics. And they were willing to give it to us. Why? Because at that time, Loma wasn't even coming regularly. So they would say, yes, those people, they used to collect all the kalu, just send it to them. And my security man was doing a very good job at collating it. So the space that we had in our small backyard for this actually overgrew. So we found the need to actually rent a location. So we started just small. Many of us don't know that for us to be able to progress, we need to start taking what we call baby steps. These babies we have, they don't just start, you don't bring them out of the womb and they start walking. Am I correct? They will do what? You carry them. From there they will do what? They will crawl. And then from crawling they will stand. And from standing they will start doing walking. But we want 30 billion in the account. And we want it now. And that is one of the challenges that we face. And it's a big issue. So we started like that. In fact, at a particular time when we got a place where we rented, I share this story most of the time, because there are certain challenges you will face if you are out there to actually make a change. But you have to take these challenges, you have to take these failures, bring them back to the table and review them. So we are going to events. I remember, you will see a picture later where I will call people I know, notable celebrities. If you have an event, just call me. I will come and clean it up for you. And they will call us and we'll come and clean. And they were, in fact, at a particular time, I started being tactical. I would identify on online personalities that were always on radio. So they were very happy to say, there is one company. I wasn't paying for adverts. They were there announcing our progress. And it was one that you actually, most times you see our activities on the newspaper, we don't pay a dime. The idea is actually you have to be very, very tactical in pursuing that dream. Understand the environment that you are playing in and actually know who will be able to project what you are doing. So we started doing that, going to events. Most times we'll collect the materials. The cost of actually transporting it to the location will be almost in negative to the cost. But we continued doing it because we knew that with time it would take shape. And that was what led to Recycle Points. It's actually a waste recycling and social benefit venture. And the idea is to motivate citizens to recycle by creating value from their everyday waste. So you find out that a lot of subscribers get to us, and when they get to us, actually before the end of the program, you might actually see most of these flyers. We came with a couple of that. I'm seeing a lot of people here, but I think we came with a lot of them so you can pick them up and read. So the idea is we were able to come up with a unique model where for every item you give us, you are going to be able to get points. Because we knew, let me explain it, it's not rocket science. That they said in green economy, we share, it's an open system. It's not one that is hidden or is secret. A lot of my contemporaries are here today. So the idea is that the value that is in this might be infinitely small. But then you actually have to translate it in such a way that people will have to collect it over time to earn from it. So you find out that in this model, you find this PET plastic bottle in our scheme earns 1 point. The can, the used beverage can earns 1 point. 10 pure water sachets earn you 1 point. So you are now, when you drink your pure water sachet, you keep it. Because tomorrow you actually want to earn from it. You can imagine 100,000 naira there, 100,000 naira there, and by you giving us back, retrieving back your points, you are able to get 100,000 naira. You are able to get television screens, washing machines. If you actually go to our website, recyclepoints.com, our social media platform, you will see people. In fact, a woman has actually equipped her house with proceeds from her waste. She doesn't know how to use washing machine, she has it. She has refrigerators, she has television sets, just by collecting her waste. To that person, you would think she's mad. But she knows what she's doing because she has been able to come up with this idea. One of the things that hit me in one of my trips is that if any of you travel to China, they know, when they see you, they know you're a foreigner. So when you are drinking a bottle like this, you see well-dressed people looking at you. They are not scoping you, or they are not, they have a target. By the time you finish the drink and you want to drop it, somebody speaks. They don't speak English, but that day you hear they speak English. They'll say, excuse me, can I take it? And you give it to them and they put it in their bag. There are train stations that with just 3 bottles, you get a ticket. And that is how they move. So you can imagine that they just get 3 plastic bottles, they slot it in, they get a ticket, and they are off. Nobody's interested in cash anymore. Cash is actually going, because the idea is that that's actually the bane of things and the challenges that we are facing today. The reason why the banks, like Femi said, they are not interested in your idea. They have a different target, and that's the reason why they have to come. So the challenge with what we are saying is that if we get to know the value that is in most of these items, then we can be able to react differently towards it. And the small idea that we started in our house and we pushed it and we got a place, what did it do? It started employing people. There are people that actually have had a huge turnover of people. It's not a job you come and do and say that's your life. Oh. You understand? You want to do this till the end of your life. We're supposed to have jobs that we can call transition jobs. You understand? Where they can provide you with the little stuff, foundation that you need to step up to what you need to do. So you don't have to be shy about doing certain things. You understand? So the idea about this initiative is like when I pitch it to young people, they are looking at the plastic bottle like I have shown them. Somebody has started calculating 7 plastic bottles, 1 jersey. By the time I get 14, he will start equating it to the price of a jersey. You forget that there is a process it actually goes through. So it's not an issue, it's not an easy place where you just say there's a place you have to make all the money. No. The idea is that you have to be able to understand in everything what you are doing and where you are heading to. So we were able to create wealth from waste items deposited by our post-consumers. So these people will gather these materials in their homes and then they will give it to us. So we are using initially vehicles to go and collect the items. Then suddenly diesel changed price. And we are like, diesel has changed price, so we have to do something about it. So we started thinking within us, what can we do to be able to bring down the cost of our logistics? Are you with me? And that led to another idea that sprung up. In fact, one of our contemporaries started exploring it. And we said, okay, because like they said, it's a free market. Nobody hands you oil license like they used to do back then. In fact, for some people, the oil license they got was a bad day's gift. So you don't get it. You just have to fight for whatever you need. So, and at that point, we started thinking, what can we do? We can't have people trek all the way. And the idea came. We started looking inwards. We couldn't find. We went to China again. And then they were able to provide us with what they call an electric tricycle. Let me tell you, in the coming years, a lot of people will send me CVs. I want to work for you. I know you can't. Because the idea is that by the time you expose you to the challenge, you now start seeing it as, is this whole thing that they are talking about? But we really need to be able to put ourselves to such hard work for us to be able to earn. And what has it led to? You can see at the end of that stuff, we are now exporting those plastics to where? To China. And that is where we are able to use to earn what we call Forex. So when people are actually crying that the dollar is increasing, we are happy. We are very happy because it's actually revenue coming to us, and that is what it's supposed to be. What we are supposed to be exporting is supposed to be higher than what we are supposed to be doing what? Importing. But we don't, we are actually importing more and exporting less. And what is this doing? For the people that are engaged in us, that woman that I spoke about doesn't need to again go and start buying television sets. All she has to look at is this flyer, and she identifies, it will cost me 230,000 points to get a television set. So she starts aiming at it. She will see pure water. You will drink it. She will say, please give it to me. You will be thinking, is she okay? The idea is that we have to be able to find ways of managing our resources better. It will help us eradicate poverty. It will help us empower our women. It will help us, employ our youths. It facilitates community engagement. It actually helps us to provide materials for our industries. China has found out that we have a lot of this now. A lot of countries in Europe have found out that we are actually consumer driven. So what have they done? They don't want me to be exporting it anymore. They have brought their factory here. And that is actually what we call industrial development. By the time they bring their factories here, who are they going to employ? They must be forced to employ most of us. It's just most of the time our policies don't make this very necessary. And they are bringing it here because they know that the raw materials are here. So we also have to start taking advantage of competing with these people for these materials. And then lastly, environmental sustainability is a key thing. So you see here that there is a value chain for waste management. And in our model, you see that from the lady, it goes to the waste buster. That's the guy that is using the tricycle, going door to door to pick the materials. And then it ends up in where we call a kiosk. Many of you now, we have been able to, through some partnership we have got, we are now looking at setting up what we call iRecycle kiosk. iRecycle kiosk is a place where, instead of you to stay idle, you actually come down to us and buy a franchise. And the idea is that for materials that come to your location, you are supposed to earn a good commission from the volume that you can be able to attract. So as those materials come down there, whoever brings it, whether the waste buster or whether the waste picker or whether the person that is actually recycling at home, you get to earn something from the volume that you attract. From the iRecycle kiosk, it goes with our vans again now to the collection and sorting hubs where we sort it, and then it ends up in the recycling plants like the video you just watched. So like you see there, you see a picture I took sometime in 2012 with Dan Foster. Those are the people I used to call and ask, if you have events, just call me. I will be there and I will clean it up. And then they will be able to broadcast and say there are people that are doing some stuff and we wouldn't be paying for airtime like that. So you see a lot of people that are particularly engaged, you understand, by this activity. And we are clearly earning from it. There is revenue that comes. It may not, it's a very lean market, but we are trying as much as we can to expand our activities now, and we are attracting a lot of attention. You know, very recently if you ask me, like Femi said, most of us came from the village. You understand? We really didn't know. Coming to Lagos for me was a very big challenge. The first time I came here in Lagos, I swore that I wasn't going to come back because it was a very challenging environment. But somehow I had to come back because it had the drive that every entrepreneur needs to be able to, you know, achieve. Then when they say, they call it center of excellence, it's actually not, it's not an understatement. So I've been able to do what I'm doing in my backyard, and a lot of people are recognizing us for it, calling us and saying, well done, this is actually what we want to be doing. And like Femi said, they are giving us money at the end of the day. It's a very big thing for you to actually wake up one morning and they announce that you are now a millionaire overnight. And you actually knew what your bank account was saying before that. In fact, some few weeks ago, we won the Chivas, we came second place in the Chivas Venture Award. And that attracted, thank you, that attracted about $200,000 if I remember. And when that award came, the next morning, bankers visited us. And we were like, what are you here for? They said, sorry, we looked at your name. You people don't have accounts with us. And we asked, how, why now? They say, okay, you know now. You know. So the idea is that if you start doing the right thing, like Femi said, they will come. And they will be able to offer you those things that you actually have been begging, kneeling down for them to do. And that's the thing. So I actually put these things out here as pictures to motivate us. There are a lot of things to do. You understand? In fact, there are other videos I would have shared with you that some companies, you understand, the electronics that we throw away, many of us use laptops, right? So when the laptop phases out, what happens? You throw it away now because you have to buy the latest one, right? You know, in fact, if the phone actually gets outdated, what do? You toss it aside. There is a company actually in Belgium that their sole activity is to harvest those motherboards that we throw away. And inside every motherboard, if you go today and you have that old computer, go and tear it apart and start looking. You see a chip, a microchip. That microchip actually has gold on it. So when they harvest these microchips, they melt it, simple chemical process, and they extract the gold, and they sell the gold to us. And it's actually something we threw away. So the idea is that we have not been exploring certain resources that we have to make the best of it. You see in this picture, the first one is pure water sachet, right? So we are very familiar with it. I have been challenging people about the second picture there. How many of us do take noodles? I'm not going to talk about a brand now, but we do take noodles, Abi. And actually, at least a lot of us are susceptible to a particular brand, Abi. In fact, we say it doesn't, no, there is no, other noodles don't taste like this one. The idea is that when we finish, what happens? We throw the wrapper away. That wrapper is actually a material that we can be able to start looking at. Just like Femi said, he had a challenge for which he actually said, this thing that killed my grandmother, let us start looking for how we can do what? Solve that challenge. And it has made him who he is today, known internationally. So the day many of you actually will take this challenge, I'll be happy to fund a business that is actually looking at, reforming this to something else. And by that, I don't mean actually using it. There are so many things to do. Let me not get into what. There's a very particular picture going viral recently about the Lagos flood. When you see, I think that happened in Surulere. How many of us have seen that video? It was actually this particular material at the end that actually caused it. It's called styrofoam. We use it for food packaging, Abi. When we go to that buka, that's the best thing they use to package the food. And when we finish eating it, we toss it aside, right? It's actually called styrofoam. There is nothing that has happened to that material by the time you are done. What you just have to do is collect it, put it in what we call a densifier, and the material is coming out again. If you put it in a mold, you are bringing out the same material and you will start selling it. But you need to put effort in learning these things. Tires. One of the finalists in the Chivas Venture competition actually collects tires, and he makes wonderful pairs of shoes from tires. It's called Zinka. If you go back, you browse it, and he just goes to wear tires and he's collecting them. And in fact, if many of you may not say, we say we are not driving vehicles, but actually since the law came out that we have to be able to look at the expiry dates of vehicles, if you look around, if you start looking around, you'll not be seeing a lot of tires. These are raw materials that we can use. Of course, I'm playing in the plastic and the aluminum can industry. The aluminum cans are wonderful. Like Jennifer said, 700 years. Aluminiums, they are just like that all year round. If you go to 18, whenever they started actually extracting aluminum and bring it, it's the same material. And what is it used for? The roofing sheets that you see, the pots, the pans. There are companies here in Lagos, they buy these things from us. And they actually melt them, form ingots, and use them to produce things that we are buying. So I'm about rounding up, and this is, you see in my next slide, you ask, why am I putting this out? And the idea is that I'm actually speaking to young people. Most of the time, somebody will ask, did you study environmental management in school? No, though I did something related to it. But there is a lot. If I had these resources by the time I was in school, I don't think I would have even ended up working for anybody at all. Every item, most times, every knowledge you need to learn, our world has made it easy. They are available. In fact, with our phones, many of you have smartphones. You load data, but then you are interested in checking trends and gossip, those ones that actually intrigue. And I'm not saying they are bad. They are very good. They help us with our social balance. But we also should be able to understand and learn things that will be able to put in something for us at the end of the day, to be able to find money to recharge that data and start asking uncle, auntie, or daddy, please recharge my data. So you find YouTube. Many of you, I don't know if you know Vimeo. These are video platforms. Just go there and say, how do I drink water? You will see a video. You ask yourself, how do I do makeup? There is a video. There's practically anything that you want to ask about that you don't find in these platforms. And then there is the free encyclopedia, the Wikipedia. How many of us know about it? So these, if you go there, there are lots of information that we can be able to extract. This is to say that if we say we don't even have anybody to teach us, we can be able to extract information from all this. And then they say ask, if you have any question, ask what? Ask Google. Google has all the answers, right? It's there. But most of us don't research. Most of us don't ask questions. That we at Recycle Points, let me use a point, have been able to survive most times is because of the information that we hear and how we react to those information. So you find out that recently I researched that China said by 2017 they don't want our materials again. That they want actually to develop their own internal systems. So we have started working on structures to say, if we cannot export to China, who will take our materials? And that is information, valuable information. If you don't know it, somebody might be at this moment thinking that that is where the market is, and by January next year, that ban happens and the person runs into problem. So information is key. Jennifer talked about she put out a lot of things I don't know many of you noted. The government today has come up with enabling policies that should help us. They want us to grow. There is a Bank of Industry, there is a development bank now that are looking at us, coming up with ideas that will be able to help us, push out from, the challenge that we are having. Then Facebook and Twitter, Instagram and Google Plus. Many of us use it for show. We use that place to showcase ourselves. When we are wearing the best dress and all, we put it on Instagram, we do the selfie, and that's the end of it. But there are businesses that are striving today because they are using these platforms. And I didn't put a particular one there, and I think I need to make all of you actually write it down. I felt old school when these things came up, but I needed to learn, and there was a particular website they call HubSpot. HUBSOPT, HubSpot. HUBSPOT, Hotspot. If you go there and register, they will start sending you information, free information, on how to be able to use Twitter. When Twitter updates, they give you the latest information about the updates, so you learn. If you can't learn, we cannot survive. You understand? A lot of us want it easy, and it's this idea of wanting things easy that has put us in the kind of big situation that we are in today. And I would actually end by trying to actually say that there are certain things that do not come easy. They say ease. I think it's Vin Diesel that said this. He said ease is the greatest threat to progress than hardship. Ease is the greatest threat to progress than hardship. Without commitment, we cannot start. Without consistency, we cannot finish. There is need for us to try. If we fail, we try again. Fail 7 times, try the 8th time. That could be the game changer. And finally, you find that each and every one of us should be responsible for the future that we are looking forward to. When you look at SDG Goal 12, it's actually a closed loop. The idea is that what we are consuming should also equate to what we are doing producing. And that's how we can be able to create a balance. I look forward to hearing from you things that you can come up from this venue based on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have a big round of applause for Mazi Okonu, the co-founder of Recycle Points. I'm sure you learned a lot from that presentation. Are we all having a great time? I can hear you. Are we having a great time? Yes, and interesting talk there. He did really drop a lot of gems. We live in an information age and smartphone age. No generation has had it better. Oxford University opened their e-library to celebrate World Literacy Week. For a week, Google, the resources are unlimited. Information is power. So I hope you're taking notes. If you are going to pay money to listen to this, you'll be paying top dollar. And the guys at SwiftThink Nigeria Limited have given you for free 99. So they deserve a big, big round of applause. One reoccurring theme I noticed from all the speakers that have had the opportunity to grace this podium today is making wealth out of waste. Not just sitting back on Twitter and Instagram and complaining about government, doing something about it. If you go to Europe today, the economy is saturated. You can't come up with, everybody has done, you can't invent the next Google. But you look around us, there are problems everywhere. When you solve problems, you create wealth. And the green economy is just, it's a win-win situation. We're saving the planet, we're making money, the entire value chain, you're creating wealth. Norway, France, and England passed legislation in the last few weeks that they will ban combustion engines, diesel and petrol cars in 2040. A few days ago, some NNPC staff were kidnapped. 8 members of the Nigerian army were killed in the northeast because they were going to explore oil in the Chad Basin. The world is moving away from oil. You don't have to follow the direction of government. Keep up with news. Information is powerful. Please, as we proceed, remember that you can write your questions. The speakers are still here. We'll have a quick question and answer session before we move on to the next round of speakers. I'd like to invite on stage, we'll take a quick music interlude now so you can refresh and relax, assimilate. I'd like to invite on stage Silly Soul to grace us with a musical interlude. A round of applause for him, please.
Hello? Hello? Good afternoon, everyone. Are you having a good time? Not just a good time, I hope we are learning. Did somebody say no? Okay, you're about to have a good time. was a sound check. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll be doing my song. It's titled Baby Girl. I released it last month, and I hope you enjoy it. For some reason, my guitar isn't working. Thank you.
To see the other world, never came back saying, if I only knew, I would have told her to stay by my side. And the last thing she had told me was she wouldn't stay. Oh, my baby girl. Oh, my baby girl. She went on that trip to see the other world and never came back saying, if I only knew, I would have told her to stay by my side. And the last thing she had told me was she wouldn't stay. Oh, my baby girl. Oh, my little girl. She just couldn't see. She's been a long way from home now and doesn't miss me. Still I'm totally devoted to bringing my baby home. Now the day will pass that I'm not thinking of you. Oh, baby girl. I'm on me, don't take me home. She just couldn't see. She's been a long way from home now and doesn't miss me. But I'm totally devoted to bringing my baby home. Oh, my baby girl. Oh, now that this has happened to you, I have only one word for you. It's just for you to dance. Just something got my attention, just like a spotted bush. I'm just an ordinary lover, such a deep love, reaching for you. I'm just an ordinary lover of you, such a deep love, reaching for ordinary people see you, 'cause ordinary people search for
Wow. Absolutely amazing. Very stunning. Please put your hands together for Seal. Seal Soul. At some point, I have to learn how to sing. Singers make all the, pizzazz. Okay. We don't have a lot of time, so we have to really rush this. We're getting loads and loads of questions, and let's just apologize now. We will not be able to take every question, but hold on. You can join the Edge community online. So get on your smartphones right now and go to the Edge series website. Sign up. I'm sure there's a place to sign up and join the community. All your questions will be answered this week on the website. Is that okay? Is that okay? Come on.
Okay, let's, without much ado, let's invite the speakers for the first session. All the speakers, Femi Oye, Jennifer Ochendu, Mazi Okonu, to take their place on the stage. Let's have a round of applause for them, please.
So we've gone through some of your questions, and what we've done is we have sieved the questions. Some of them are a little bit repetitive. So we have just 10 minutes for this particular Q&A, and we'll take some of the top questions. I think between us we have about 1, 2, 3. Yes. Yeah, three each. So that will be 6 questions. And please, our speakers, we have to also crave your indulgence for those who are on the panel now and those who are seated to please get on the Edge series community online this week so that you can answer everyone's questions. And for those of you on the panel, because we have just 10 minutes, so make your answers as brief as possible. Thank you. Okay, so my first question here is for Mr. Femi Oye. And this person says, what if you have found the solution to a problem and you do not have money or the capital to back it up? How will you make it possible?
Yeah, good. I quite understand that the issue of money would definitely come up. There's no doubt about it. Money unlocks the potential, and money is the vehicle that will eventually help you to bet the idea or the solution that you have. However, I will be frank with this, that money is likely going to be the last thing. So if you're asking me for money, or you're asking an investor, I want to find out, what have you done already? What do you have to show? So it's great that we could talk about the inventions, the solutions that we are bringing to the fore today. But we didn't all start with money. I've built multi-billion naira company today, but I started with less than 50,000 naira. I started from a friend's office backyard. I mean, he gave me his office to use, and I turned the back office to becoming my workshop, experimenting and trying out my solution. Eventually, the money came. So, because of time, you need to look at this from two sides. Do you want to be the innovator, which is the entrepreneur? It's not everyone that is into business that is an entrepreneur. You can be in business, you can be a professional and run a business, but that doesn't make you an entrepreneur. Do you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to be a noisemaker? Noisemakers are people that go out first to look for money. They want to be on social media talking about what they have not even done, and that is why you say they hijacked my idea. Because you've announced it there. You've not even done anything. It's the person that could run with it. So noisemakers don't get things done. So you try to be an entrepreneur that want to innovate, iterate, you want to find out, crack it, use your own sweat equity. And in the green economy we are talking about, it's not about what people give to you. It's a shared community. You got over 70 million naira from recently. It's not because he sat down looking for that money. He was busy on his solution, on his problem that he's solving, and the money comes. However, if you've started something already, and you now need money to scale it, it's gone beyond proof of concept, because no one wants to give you money to risk. So you should use your social capital, which is your integrity, to attract few people, experiment, demonstrate. The first 250 million naira that was invested into my business, I didn't sign any agreement. It was an angel investor that gave this to me. But I've already moved through cycles, even raising 100,000, 200,000. I could not. I learned a skill of raising money Onyibo way by asking people to give me 1,000 naira. No one trusted me to even give me, even my closest friends. They could not donate 100,000 into my dream. Who cares about your idea? But you. But at the end of the day, they cannot deny the real value in the solution that you are bringing to help advance this economy we are building. So get out there, experiment. When you get to a stage where you need money, naturally, the universe will arrange itself because you are increasing in value. Don't be attached to the end, to the result. Be attached to the process that is actually going to deliver the end to you. So you have the vision, you have a process, and you have the end, which is the money you are looking for.